Welcome, my friends, to the Trevor Chapman Show. This is Trevor, and this is our place, yours and mine, where we talk and learn from the best minds on this beautiful earth about entrepreneurship, achievement. We are purveyors of the good life, curating environments that promote and even demand kairos moments of success, happiness, and euphoric achievement. I mean, we work relentlessly to attain levels of the highest performance in business and life. Here is to our collective happiness and to celebrating our human experience. My friends, it's time to run. Welcome, my friends, to the Trevor Chapman Show. This is Trevor, and we are lucky today to have with us a mind genie, someone who understands, contemplates, and pursues the subconscious mind. And this is a topic that absolutely fascinates me. I have dedicated a strong portion of my everyday to understanding how the mind works so that I can operate on optimal levels, not just regarding achievement, but regarding fulfillment, happiness, power, all of the above. So without further ado, Marshall Silver, thank you for joining us today.
Trevor, I am so excited to be on your show, and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So Marshall, for the audience, if you would, give us a 60,000-foot overview of who you are today and, over the last 2 decades, who you were, potentially who your classmates knew you in high school as, and the Marshall Silver that is known today.
The media calls me the greatest hypnotist of all time, and mostly because it's in my press kit. But the bottom line is that communication equals wealth. So I am, as far as I know, the leading authority on both subconscious reprogramming and irresistible influence.
Incredible.
If I meet somebody better than me, I promise I will be their best student.
Wow. So how does one even consider this as a line of like a pursuit in life?
Good
like, what's the history behind it?
I was born and raised on a farm in Michigan. We had no running water. We had no electricity. We had no phone. I have 9 brothers and sisters. Often we had sometimes no food. Twice my family was homeless. One point we lived out of a motel room. All 10 of us, 9 kids and my mom, lived in a single room motel room for 3 months. And then once in the middle of a cold Michigan winter, we were living out of a station wagon. And the local community realized that we were likely to die in the snow. And they renovated an old chicken coop. And it had running water, it had electricity. And other than clucking when I get happy, no adverse side effects. The place was actually heaven to me. And right now, I'm talking to you live from my palace in Las Vegas, 17,000 square feet. When it gets hot in Vegas, we head down to the beach house, which is in a place called Carlsbad, right on the ocean in Southern California. And it's been an amazing ride. It's been magical. It's been fun. I started off as an entertainer, as a kid, as a magician. And at 10 years old, somebody offered to pay me money to do what I love to do, which is one of the foundational laws for any entrepreneurs. Figure out what it is that you absolutely love that you would do for free, and then figure out how to monetize it. And so my early years, I did magic. At 17 years old, I got a job at a radio station down in San Diego called FM 104 K-Joy. Beautiful and relaxing. Music to have your teeth drilled by. And I enjoyed working at the station. And at 16 years old, a hypnotist came to my high school. And when the hypnotist came to my high school, I got up on stage and he flapped his arms up and down. And then suddenly I was doing everything he directed me to do. And at one point, he told me that he was going to send me back to my seat in the audience. And that when he said the words, "Sonny boy," I would stand up to my seat in the audience. I'd walk back to the stage. I'd fall on my own butt. I'd roll my pant legs up above my knees. I'd climb on his lap, put my thumb in my own mouth, and say, "Sing it again, Daddy." And I remember going back to my seat in the audience, being very introverted, thinking there's no way in the world I'm going to do that. Yet it was the weirdest thing, Trevor. He says, "Sonny boy," and like a magnet's pulling me back to the stage, up to the stage, on my butt, pant legs up, thumb in mouth, on his lap, "Sing it again, Daddy." And I went home that night, and I was thinking to myself, my gosh, was I actually hypnotized? Or was I just doing what he told me to do? And I thought about it. I thought, well, what if he told you to get off drugs? Because at the time I was doing drugs. And because he told you to do it, you just did it. What if he told you to be more confident and you just did it? What if he told you to go out and be a multimillionaire? And because he told you you could, you believed that you would, and you went out and took fearless action. I realized in that moment, if that is hypnosis, which it is, then this is one of the most powerful forces on the planet. These days, like I mentioned, I have a palace in Vegas, a home on the ocean in Southern Cal. I fly around the world in private jets. Everything and beyond that I've ever dreamed of has come through both learning how to reprogram my own mind and also learning how to influence and reprogram the minds of others.
So help me, Marshall. I so desperately want to believe that hypnotism is real. So I'm just being vulnerable with you right now. I want to believe it because I want to think that I could go and have a one-on-one with you. You could snap your fingers, give me a keyword, and every day for the rest of my life, I would wake up at 5 a.m. That is so easy to me. It seems like the solution to every problem on the planet. And yet I find myself highly skeptical of, I think, the entertainment side of hypnotism, the clucking like a duck thing, or like a chicken or whatever, but absolutely intrigued by the deep recesses and the power of the mind, which I just a little bit, so that a little bit of my background. I grew up on Guam. My dad was a scuba diving instructor. When I was 12, we moved to Alaska. I spent every day during the summer sneaking around so fish and game wouldn't catch me, catching my family's limit in salmon, 36 salmon every day, gutting them, smoking them, canning them so we could make it through the winter, then driving my bike down to the docks and playing my saxophone for the tourists that were lined up to get back on the cruise ship.
I love it.
And so, yeah, I mean, I love it now. At the time, your buddies drive by in their truck and you kind of put your face to the side because you don't want them to see you, even though everyone knows it's you. And anyway, it was a great experience. It was what laid the foundation for my adult life, which I'm eternally grateful for. In my mind, I have a predisposition to believe, and I actively fight this, Marshall, that if it's easy, it's fake. Now, I say that I try to fight it because I have found that the biggest breakthroughs I've had have been when I ask myself, how do I do this easy? Instead of taking the hard route, how do I just snap my fingers and this happens? And this has happened for me in the past. And so having said that, help me really understand you as the most powerful hypnotist in the world. Are you truly controlling someone's mind?
What I'm doing is changing the frame of reference. So I'll give you a bunch of different frames right inside of what you were talking about. I have 9 brothers and sisters, and they're amazing people. They're awesome human beings, and I love them very much. We were all raised in the exact same environment, yet I took a completely different path. I'm really the only one in the family that decided to take an entrepreneurial path. And even though they've seen the evidence, the validation of what that path has created for me, and knowing what I know, meaning they know I'm no smarter than they are, they still have not taken that path. So something had to have occurred in my life, and I know what it was for me, but something had to have occurred in my life that turned things, that made me view everything from a different lens. For me, a couple things occurred. When I was 5 years old, I watched my mother cry at the dinner table because she knew there was no more food in the house and that all 10 of her kids and her were going to be hungry the next meal. There was nothing left. And I realized when I was watching my mom say the dinner prayer that whatever was causing her to cry, I was going to solve that. I was going to heal that. And then the other thing that happened for me was, once again, I was fortunate enough to find something that I really enjoyed, magic, as a child at 7 years old. And there were some key things that occurred. When I came upon magic as a magician and did some magic tricks for my father, it was one of the few times in my entire lifetime that I got a positive response from him. My mother and father were divorced, and he just either didn't know how to be a dad to me or didn't want to be a dad to me. And so when I did magic, that impression was so profound. I said, I want to make that happen again and again and again. And so, fast forward a few years, at 10 years old, somebody said, hey, would you do magic at our party? We'll pay you. I said, oh my gosh, I get to do what I love and you pay me? So to address because you said a lot, to address the skepticism you might have after watching a stage hypnotist, I get it. And there are a lot of stage hypnotists who do shows that, I'm not a prude by any stretch of the imagination. I just am evangelical about what hypnosis has done for me, what it's allowed me to help other people do. And so when I do a hypnotic show, I just did one up in LA. There were 16,000 people at an expo called the Real Estate Wealth Expo. I did my show there. When I do my show, the show's intention is to excite the imagination, to create a sense of awe and wonder for people so that they say, wow, if you could make somebody speak a language from another planet, if you could take 3 women, make their bodies stiff and rigid, lay them across supports for their necks and their ankles, and then walk up their bodies like a human staircase, if you could do those miraculous things, how hard would it be to hypnotize somebody to lose the desire to smoke? Or how hard would it be to hypnotize somebody to accept and fully be certain that they are multimillionaires, even if the money has not yet been deposited in their bank account, and to live their lives accordingly? So once again, my job is to not change someone's actions. My job is to change who they are. When I stopped doing drugs, I called up everybody who ever sold me drugs, and I said, if you ever sell me drugs again, I'll turn you into the police. I knew that if I couldn't get them, I couldn't do them. I also knew that I didn't want to tell my unborn son, who came almost 30 years later, do as daddy says, not as daddy does. I knew that I needed to have an example. And so for me, I view the world as now a billionaire views the world. And before I became a millionaire, I still had to view the world as a millionaire viewed the world. And so I would ask myself the questions, what would a millionaire do? Would a millionaire sit and watch television for 4 hours a night instead of working on their dreams and plans? No, a millionaire wouldn't do that, so I disconnected cable. I said, would a millionaire stay inside of toxic relationships that were draining them of every piece of energy they had? And the answer was no, they wouldn't do that. Would a millionaire squabble over an overcharge of $10 on their cell phone bill and take 2 hours to just be right because of the principle of the matter? No, they would either just accept the $10 overcharge or change carriers. And so when you start asking yourself questions such as, what would a person who was certain do right now? What would a person who was succeeding do? And start doing those things, like you said, most people make their lives way too difficult. And it's not their fault. They're screwed up. They were screwed up in the programming that they received by the time they were 7 years old. And they've lived their entire lives under certain beliefs of things that are and aren't that hold them shackled every single day.
That makes total sense. And so that's my framework. I 100% agree with you on that. My question lies in your ability to see, I had to work hard to get out of the mindset that, we grew up below the poverty line. I remember I was absolutely amazed when I asked my wife's dad how he started his company. He said, well, I bought it. How much? $3,000. I was like, where did you get $3,000? He said it was in my account. I could not comprehend that. It was like 15 years ago. How someone could have $3,000 in their bank account. It made zero sense to me. But I knew what I wanted. I shifted my mindset. So I'm talking, I think, more about the sensational aspects of hypnosis, where you come to me and you say, Trevor, sit on my lap and say, sing it again.
Which, by the way, I never will, I promise you.
Good, because I've got everyone. I'm duct taped down, so you can't make me do anything right now.
Lovely. So what it is once again, my job as a communicator is to communicate, number one, with authority. I know what I'm doing. If there was any doubt in my communication or even in my subconscious mind, since all thoughts have a physical response, if I hold doubt, I'll communicate that to you. Since I have zero doubt, and certainty is the absence of all doubt, since I have absolute certainty of how you're going to respond, no matter what comes up, no matter what resistance or skepticism or anything you do, it doesn't faze me. I've seen it already. I've worked with it already. And know that my job is to help you know, to help you be certain of whatever it is we happen to be working on. So once again, I know what programs and beliefs multimillionaires hold that, for the sake of this discussion, we'll call them paupers don't hold, anybody that's not a millionaire. And I know what actions they take, and I know what they focus on. And since what you focus on expands, I know what that is. So let me ask you a question that might lay down the foundation for you to advance and understand greater. Are you an honest guy?
I try to be as honest as I can.
I
won't delude myself into saying that.
Okay. Would you ever steal from somebody?
Only if I was in a situation where the health and safety of my circle required it. So I would.
So the answer is you absolutely would.
Yes.
So and most people would. Anybody that's healthy would answer, if they were honest, that question that way. They'd say, well, no, I wouldn't normally steal, but if there's a bowl of apples on a table and my family's starving and I know it's not going to cause any undue harm to the other people, if I take a couple of apples to feed my starving family, yeah, I'm going to steal the apples.
Yes.
So in that instance, I don't need to turn you into a thief. What I need to do is I need to make you believe that, number one, no one is harmed by you taking those apples. Number two, that even if someone were, the harm to your family would far be worse if you didn't. So what I've got to do is I've got to change your frame of reference. So the second question, would you ever murder somebody?
Same answer. Under the right circumstances, yeah.
100% the same answer.
Yeah.
So I don't need to make you believe that you're a murderer. I need you to believe that you are protecting your family or the people that you love.
Yes.
And so everybody has different programs and levels of belief of those things. If you knew that one day somebody whispered in your ear, Trevor, you're a billionaire. It is certain. Depending on the source of that message, if the clouds parted and God said that to you, it is certain. Have faith, follow through, finish what you started. And you had a deep belief in God, then your brain would just say, wow, okay, it's done. And then rather than being frightened, rather than coming from a place of fear, you would come from a place of certainty. And in that certainty, everything you saw, you would see from a different frame. In other words, if you were going to get on a plane and the flight was late, rather than get upset because you find your life perfect, because finding it less than perfect is a waste of your time, because you find your life perfect, you say, great, the flight's late because had we taken off on time, number one, it would have flown into a flock of seagulls. The plane would have crashed and I would have died. Furthermore, there is somebody that I am supposed to connect with in my realm right now that I would not have seen, not have noticed, not communicated with had I gotten on that plane and taken off as planned. So what my experience has been is the most successful of people find their lives perfect. They don't really get upset. They might not be happy in any given moment, but they really don't get upset. And the moment that they realize they're upset, they say, what's good about this? What's perfect about this? When we started this broadcast, I was having some technical difficulties. A lot of people would just throw up their hands and walk away when they run into technical difficulties. Yet other people just say, no, stuff happens. Keep going. Don't stop. Stay the course.
That makes complete sense to me. I love the word certainty. The person that is most certain always wins. I cut my teeth, in college with door-to-door sales, and everything I built, my brick and mortar company since then, were all built on door-to-door sales, over $100 million in revenue generated. And it was all based on certainty. You knock on that person's door and it's based on certainty. And, even the first Rothschild, and I hope I don't slaughter the quote, so I'm just going to paraphrase it. But he basically said, if you adopt an opinion of yourself and you hold that true long enough, pretty soon everybody else adopts that opinion of you. Because 100%. He who is most certain wins over those who are less certain. So my question, everything you said, man, I'm singing in harmony with you. My question then lies, is the sensational stuff staged to help give a point? Or is that legit? Are you just working with people where you understand their frame of reference? You pick out specific people in the audience, maybe they're afraid, maybe this or that, and you use their desires to impress those around, whatever the case may be, to make them rigid so that you can walk up them.
Again, it comes back to certainty, which ironically, I've been retired for about 6 years. My first son was born almost 7 years ago now, and he was born here at home at Prosperity Palace in Las Vegas, my 17,000 square foot home, in the bathtub upstairs, no drugs, no doctors, no pain. And when my son was born, I'd already made over $250 million. I said, you know what? I'm done. I want to retire. All I want to do is spend every moment I can with my wife and my beautiful boy. And then my second son, Maximus, was born in the bathtub right upstairs, no drugs, no doctors, no pain. And I said, I am more committed to being retired than ever. And then my daughter Prosperity was born in the bathtub upstairs. And when Prosperity was born, I caught her in my hands in the tub. I cut her umbilical cord, and I'm looking into her beautiful eyes, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I need to get back to work. Little girls are expensive. and the thing for me, though, there is a Buddhist curse, and the Buddhist curse is may all of your greatest desires be instantaneously fulfilled.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
And that curse, I never understood that curse as a man in his early 20s. Wow. I thought, why would that be a curse? Don't be ridiculous. Well, when I found my beautiful bride, Erica, we've been together for 11 years now. When I met my beautiful bride, Erica, I had everything. I had all the money. I finally found love in a very real and deep way. And it was the Buddhist curse. I had done everything on my bucket list, from publishing books through major publishers, through writing, executive producing, and starring in a movie that hypnotizes you while you watch it, to having the world's largest hypnotic production show on numerous main stages in Las Vegas. I had done everything. And so for me to come out of retirement, I said, it's got to be something bigger. And I didn't know what I wanted it to be. And so I was thinking about it. And I'll come back and answer your stage hypnosis question in a moment. I was thinking about it. I was thinking, what's beyond hypnosis? Hypnosis is reprogramming somebody. It's allowing them or causing them to change their beliefs. And through what I've been doing for over now 4 decades, I realized there's a point beyond belief. And that point is certainty. And so I have created 2 organizations. One is called Certainty Incorporated. And what it is the study of certainty. It's the placement of certainty. So whether it's a certain birth, when I hypnotized my wife to give painless birth, I had to remove any thought or any doubt that she would experience any kind of pain or discomfort. And when we live streamed the final birth, the Prosperity's birth, it looks like my wife's sleeping through the entire birth. We have people that were on the chat roll saying there is no way that woman is in labor. There's no way she's given birth. Whether it is being a certain millionaire, whether it is having a certain marriage or whatever it is, the bottom line comes to the fact that when you are certain, then no matter what comes up, you aren't swayed. And the second organization I created is an organization called the Certainty Institute. And the Certainty Institute is to assist in 2 areas that matter very dearly to me. One is educating homeless people that do not want to be homeless. For the last 20 years of her life, my mother ran a homeless shelter down in San Diego because we were homeless twice. She wanted to get back. And I asked her one day, how many of the people that are homeless don't want to be homeless? She said half. She said the other half are quite okay with the lifestyle. They like it. They embrace it. It works for them. So I thought, well, gosh, what could I do? What could I put out that would help people get back their self-esteem, get back on their feet, learn life skills like the ones we're talking about, and get it to them free, get it to them at no cost so that they could come back and be not only a good life for themselves, but also be contributing members of society. And then the second cause that's near and dear to my heart is combating child sex trafficking. Blowing it up as far as exposing how rampant it is, and then making sure that we are going after the people that are committing those heinous crimes. But back to the question about hypnosis and the stage hypnosis show in particular, I cannot speak for everyone else. I have known hypnotists that have faked the hypnosis on stage, whether they were using actors or whatever it was. I've never done that, and I've never understood why they did, because it's not necessary. So the answer to the question, once again, it comes back to that bowl of apples or would you kill somebody? When people get up on stage for a hypnotic show, everyone that's getting on stage is aware it's an entertainment. When I do my show, I tell them in advance, I'm going to tease you. I'm going to make fun of you. You're probably going to make fun of me back. That's human nature. I'm okay with it. The bottom line is we're all going to have a lot of fun. And then as I do the show, what I do is I take people and I put them in a circumstance where they're used to following my directives. It may be something as simple as stand up, come forward, sit down. It may be I'm going to move you around a little bit. You trade places with them. You trade places with them. It may be me just saying close your eyes, open your eyes. And when people are used to following a series of directives, since small commitments lead to large commitments, when the next directive is you'll begin laughing hysterically as if you just remember the punchline to the funniest joke you've ever heard in your entire life, it's not much of a stretch. And so the person starts to giggle since they're laying on top of somebody else. The person they're laying on starts to giggle since they're shoulder to shoulder with somebody else. They start to giggle. Pretty soon everybody's laughing. And pretty soon their brain is saying, oh, he said we would laugh and we did. And then when I give them a suggestion that one of their fingers will twitch, well, that's not really that much. If I tell them one of their fingers will twitch, their finger twitches, they say, wow, my finger twitched. And then I say, and the hand now begins to become light, begins to leave your leg and rise into the air. Their brain's going, oh my gosh, it's going into the air. So by the time I'm at the end of the show and I'm turning people into Lady Gaga, or they're speaking languages from other planets, or I'm walking up their bodies like a human staircase, what it is a deeper and deeper and deeper level of certainty that no matter what he says, I'll do, since there's no harm in this, and I'm getting massive positive response from the audience in the form of laughter and applause, this is a good thing. Now, let's take it beyond that. You're in a show like that, just like I was when I was 16 years old, and you go back and you think about it, you go, my gosh, what if in my real world I just took little actions? I want to lose the fat. I just have such a hard time working out. Okay, just put your workout clothes on. Okay, you don't have to go to the gym. Tell you what, why don't you just sit in your car? Don't even go to the gym, just sit in your car. Okay, well, this is dumb. Might as well go to the gym and sit in the parking lot there. Then I can say I went to the gym. And then you're sitting in the gym parking lot in your car. You go, well, this is dumb. Might as well walk inside and just, hang out. Then you go inside, you go, look, I could just step on the treadmill for a minute. I could do 1 minute. And then pretty soon you're doing 30 minutes, you're lifting weights, you're working out, losing weight, and feeling great. And so the key here is that an object in motion stays in motion. If I'm dealing with entrepreneurs, I'm dealing with somebody that wants to grow their business. First thing I say is, what's the name of your business? Well, we haven't really decided. Name your business. That's the first thing you do. Secondly, define what that business is. Thirdly, although you don't know how to do everything and it's overwhelming to even ponder it, what's one thing that is powerful, positive, and productive and leads you toward that end result? Do that thing now. It really comes down, Trevor, to the big question, who were you on the day you were born? Were you a pauper struggling to make money, or were you a multi-billionaire whose money had not yet been deposited in your bank account?
So my question is, why do some people, I came out believing that I had a special, unique purpose, and to this day, I feel it within me. Why do others lack that? Is it genetic? Is it biological? Or is it environmental?
They choose not to decide. And not making a choice is making a choice for not by default.
So one of the things that fascinates me is the power of the human mind specifically. Let me try to illustrate this for you, not eloquently. When you stand up in the morning and you wake before the rest of the world and you see a sunrise and those colors beam across the horizon line, they enter your optic nerve. You're looking at infinity. I mean, this light, if it's coming from the sun, has taken 9 years to get here. That time has long passed. 9 years ago, you were doing something very different. Now, scientifically, there's nothing but protons and neurons and small atoms that are coming in, smacking your optic nerve. You're taking that data and sending it back through this trillion of cells that your optic nerve and brain are made of. Interestingly, those very atoms that make up those cells were formed in the crucible of stars, where there are fewer stars in our galaxy than there are cells in your body. Fascinating. But your brain then takes it and it turns it into this masterpiece of color. That color doesn't exist. It's just protons with nothing but positive and negative charges. But you turn it into the masterpiece. You interpret it, yes. And so much so, this thing that you have just made by opening up your eyes and looking at it, so much so that you cause emotions within your body that you oftentimes will think that your body is reacting or that it is being acted upon with these emotions because of the beauty and the grandeur of the moment. But that moment and that grandeur doesn't even exist. It's there because you have viewed it and observed it into being. The same with a symphony or anything else. Molecules vibrating, and you turn it into the masterpiece that it is. That view fascinates me because what it does is it tells me that there is a window that opens up into an entire world of incredible possibility that we don't even consider because for whatever reason, perhaps if we walk through that window, we truly understand how powerful we actually are. And it causes me to pause and reflect on that. How, with you being able to understand how to influence people, how do you interpret your own power and majesty? And not just humanity, but specifically Marshall. How do you see yourself?
I mentioned at the top of the show that I am the leading authority in the world on subconscious reprogramming and irresistible influence. That wasn't just press, that wasn't PR, that wasn't fluff or even ego. That is who I am. That is the certainty that I hold. I also said, though, if I find somebody who is better at any area of my life than I am, I will be their best student. So it's not vanity. There's a distinction between cockiness and confidence. Confidence allows for greatness in other people. And so for me, what it is, it's understanding, number one, who are you? Your entire vision of watching that sunrise, that was an interpretation. You get to choose exactly what it means to you and how it looks to you. Some people get up before the sunrise and they see the sun come up and it's just glorious colors. Other people get up before the sunrise and as the sun comes up, they say, this really sucks. that I have to get up so early every freaking day that I have to see the sunrise just to take care of my family. Now, the bottom line is if you have to get up before the sunrise to take care of your family, you might as well enjoy it. It's there. And so it all comes down to, once again, hypnosis. It comes down to which trance do we choose to believe? I'm doing the lecture. I'm going to be in Toronto here soon in front of 11,000 people. I'm going to follow Tony Robbins and Pitbull and a lot of very well-known people. And then I come up. And I'm not going to pretend for a second that the number of people that know who Tony Robbins is know who Marshall Silver is. Yet I'm the guy that sells things. So when I get on that platform, you can be certain I'm going to walk out on that platform and know that any other person that graced that stage before me or after me, I am all that they are and more. I'm going to know that, because having less than that level of confidence would just be silly. It wouldn't serve me. But let's imagine I come out on stage and I'm not confident. I come out on stage and everyone in the room loves me, yet I think that they're judging me against Tony Robbins. They're, who's this guy? I don't even know who this guy is. He's just a Tony Robbins wannabe. And so because my confidence is so low, this audience that loved me, because I hold that low level of confidence, anything they do, if they start clapping and laughing, I go, oh, see, they're mocking me. They're making fun of me. And then my performance will adjust accordingly. Yet imagine I walk out into a room where every single person in that room, which they do, thinks Tony Robbins is the greatest in the world. Oh, my God, best motivational speaker of all time. I walk out, and I don't think they think that. I think that they have no idea, because they've never seen me before, that because they're going to measure me against a guy like Tony Robbins, and I'm going to do things that even Tony couldn't do or didn't do, that by the time I'm done, they're going to say, whatever you're selling, I'm buying. Wherever you're leading, I'm following. Please let me lift you up and carry you to our end destination. And so what happens is when people start living in that life of certainty, where they believe they deserve whatever it is they want, whether it's a 17,000 square foot mansion or a private jet or beautiful babies and an amazing relationship and optimal health, whatever it is they decide they deserve and believe is theirs, then faith equals follow through. In other words, when we are certain that our success is going to happen, we don't get detoured, we don't get set back. We just keep following through on the things that would cause that success to be. And, at the end of the day, at the bottom of our life, as we're laying on our deathbed, it wouldn't have hurt us to be certain about things that we're not certain, that were never going to happen. It's okay to be certain of things, to be joyful, to come from a place of love rather than a place of fear, because the likeliness of your success is greatly enhanced by your level of certainty.
So you say so many interesting things that really resonates with me. So I have a question, just a personal question. Help me understand myself, because to be honest, I have often wondered, is this just me being conceited? Is this my ego or what? And I'll illustrate it by telling you how I respond to events. I love events. I love going, but I despise sitting in the audience. I can't help it. And so I don't. I stand up and I step on the side or walk around. And even if I got maybe a VIP package and I have a photo with whoever it is, I cannot take myself to standing in that line and taking a photo with the person that's there. Not because inside me I'm like, oh, I'm so much better than you. It's not that. It's because I feel that I don't feel that I am that is not my identity. I almost feel like, why am I standing in line with all of these people to take a photo with this dude when this guy is great at what he's good at? I'm good at what I'm good at. I should be standing up there and they should be taking pictures with me. Now, I hate even saying this to you. I hate vocalizing it because I know how it sounds. Some of the team is in here.
It doesn't sound anything. You just described me.
Okay, good. Well,
yeah, you just described me to a T. My wife will tell you that I love crowds when I'm on stage, and that I'm not a fan of crowds when I'm not. I won't go to a concert. I won't go to a show. I won't go to a concert unless we've got VIP tickets.
That's how I feel.
I won't go to something if I'm sitting, in the back row or even halfway back. I won't do it. I don't want to do it. If I'm going to take the one thing that's most precious in my life, and that is my time, then I'm going to make sure we have a full experience. We just celebrated some February birthdays. My wife, my daughter, and one of my sons are all born in February. And as a part of the celebration month, we went up to Universal Studios. We went to Disneyland. And when we go, we always do VIP. VIP at Disneyland is you have to buy tickets to get into the park to begin with. It's $400 per hour to have the tour guide, and you're not taken right to the front of the line. You get fast pass, which means that you get up with the other fast passers, which means your day goes substantially faster, yet it's not directly front of line. Universal is directly front of line. You just walk on. If you want to stay on, they'll even let you stay on. I wonder why people do the theme parks without VIP. It doesn't make any sense. You buy your ticket, you're going to stand in lines for an hour and a half on the popular rides minimum. You're going to get on maybe 4 rides during the course of your day, and it's going to be miserable. The majority of your time was spent standing in line. So I get it. I understand what you're saying. As far as the thing of standing in a line to take the picture with somebody else, I think your brain is tricking you. I think you would love to have a picture with that person. I just don't think you want to stand in line again. Your ADD kicks in too fast, as does mine. If I go to a conference, I have a really hard time sitting there. If I sit down and somebody says something and I get the point and then they labor on about it, I'm gone. My ADD has already said, okay, I got your point. Move on. There are some people that are very, very popular inside of the online space, and I'm positive some of them just like the sound of their own voice.
Okay, well, so you're right. I would like a picture with some. Let me give you an example. So I went to this event up at ClickFunnels. Gary Vee was there. All these people stood in line.
Yep.
You're right. If I was sitting at a coffee shop table with Gary Vee, I'd love a photo with him. But I would hate to subject myself to standing in line. And I hate to use this term, man, and people that listen to me, I'm going to lose followers saying this, but I'm going to gain a few that feel like me. I feel like I become part of the sheeple when I do that, and it's counter to me.
Well, let me go a little further, and let me help your audience that clearly they won't leave. They love you already. Let me help everybody understand. I mentioned it already earlier today. It does not behoove me to pretend I am less than who I am so someone else feels better about themselves. The better thing for me to do is to acknowledge who I am and invite other people to enhance their self-confidence, their own personal view of themselves, so that they too feel the same way. There's no way around the truth that 95% of the population is led around by the other 5%. There is no way around the fact that fully half the population absolutely believes that they are entitled to be taken care of by other people. Yet it's the 5%. It's the people that are on this podcast. It's the people that are your best audience. They know better. They feel the same way you just felt. They know they're above the majority of the people they look at. And that's not cockiness. That's confidence. And the distinction is confidence allows for greatness in other people. I live in Vegas. This is my main residence. And if you go to a restaurant here in Vegas, there's certain ways things are done in Vegas. If you go into a restaurant and you go to the maitre d' stand and you say, hey, party of 2, they say, okay, there's a 1 hour wait. You say, if it was a party of 3 with my friend Benjamin, how long would the wait be? And you slip $100 into that hostess's hand. I guarantee you're getting seated within 5 minutes. And some people would say, well, that's not fair. What about all those other people that waited an hour? They could have given the poor girl struggling to feed her baby at home $100. It would have blessed her life too. And if they didn't think to do that, maybe they just don't like the way the game is played. And if you don't like the way the game is played, that's all fine and well. It's still the way the game is played. And so what most people have a really hard time understanding is life isn't fair, yet it can be fun.
Ooh, I like that. So in 2008, I had come off of just a short lifetime of everything I did succeeding without having to try very hard, including business. I was expecting just the absolute best summer. We moved to Florida. I was going to buy a sailboat, sail down, hang out with Richard Branson. These were all my plans. Well, I had no clue that the economy was collapsing because I wasn't even looking outside of my own line of sight. And within my line of sight was the fact that I was losing tens of thousands of customers monthly. I was losing all of my employees. And for some reason, the natural knack that I had to make things happen just wasn't working. And it never dawned on me to say, oh, the economy is poor, because that's not how I was. I wasn't a finger pointer. Well, it got to the point, Marshall, where I remember one day, I eventually allowed the conditions that were obviously the result of my decisions, but I allowed them to affect me internally, the external things to affect me. And I found myself late at night, freaking out, rolled up in the fetal position, questioning my very self-confidence. Like, it affected me at that core level where I was not what you are describing. Now, I'm grateful for it because in retrospect, I see that what it took down was false certainty that was based on hollow experience and little experience. And from that, I was able to build. But it was in that moment where I saw business partners go back to business school. I saw best friends join the army. Everyone left. And I decided to stay. And from staying in there, I was able to rebuild from that crucible moment of my life. Do you? Because as I talk to you, I'm like, there's no way this guy has ever gone through a sense of doom. But I have to believe that you've only become who you are because of the refiner's fire. Have you experienced doom and embarrassment 100%. And trauma?
I have. I've experienced all of the above. In fact, I've experienced moments in my life where I got on my knees and I prayed to God, let me trade places with Job. And if anybody knows anything about their Bible, Job was this man that he was a very God-loving man, and the worst of things, horrible things, his family, I won't even get into it. So yeah, at one point in my career, after having made hundreds of millions of dollars, I find myself going through a divorce. I'd only been married for 11 months. The divorce was taken 4.5 years. Because I had too much money and I was required to pay her side of the attorney's fees, my side of the attorney's fees, and pay her thousands of dollars every single month in spousal support. And come to find out, some fishy things were going on with the judge and all around. I am being attacked by the government, threatened with 27 years in prison for something I have not done. And I have to defend myself against that. I am crying on the shoulder of the person running my company during those years every day because it's just so hard. I want to step off a tall building. And the only reason I don't do it is I had helped so many people get a handle on their lives. I knew that if I stepped off a tall building that they might kill themselves. And I said, you can't do it. And then I am dating the girlfriend from hell who's not only cheating on me, she's robbing me blind. She's literally stealing money from my pocket. And I allow it to go on because my self-esteem at that time is so low that I think if I can't make this horrible human being love me, then how in the world can I make somebody that is quality love me? And I was so low, I didn't know if I could get back up. And I said a prayer. I love God deeply. I said a prayer and I said, God, what's the answer? And the answer I got was one fire at a time. Do not attempt to solve all of these at once. Solve one of them now. So I went to the girl that I was dating and I said, we're done. I don't care if I'm alone for the rest of my life. I deserve better than this. I went to the courts where my divorce was going on and I told the judge, I'm not paying another dime in spousal support. This has been going on for 4.5 years. Tell them to pick a number or, send me to jail for contempt of court. I told the government that was just attempting to ruin me. I said, you either try me at trial and let the jury decide my fate, or I'm going to let the world know what you're doing to me. I went through the trial. I was exonerated on everything, yet it took a lot of years and a lot of heartache to get through that. I went to the woman that I knew was robbing me blind, and I dealt with that. So, come full circle, I become very wealthy and successful again. And then, just so you know, 2009, 2010, all the way through 2016, there are a lot of really successful people who went through really hard times where they were praying, God, could I just get a win? Would you please just give me one victory so that I don't feel like I'm getting the air knocked out of me every time I open my eyes? And so I want to go on record as saying, and this, they can hate me. They won't hate you for my opinion, but if you want to get attacked, have an opinion. The years of Obama were some of the roughest years we have ever had economically in my lifetime. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And one of the biggest reasons that we are in really good times right now, whether you want to like him or you want to hate him, no matter who is flying the plane, you should be praying that the pilot lands the plane well. That's what you should be praying for. And right now, if you have a fever, it gets worse right before it gets better. You think, I can't even remember ever feeling good. I promise you, we are right now in the U.S. I see it in my seminars. I see it in our programs. I see it in other people's events. We are in the greatest economic boom you and I and anybody living through this time will ever see in our lifetimes. And it's for one reason. We have an entrepreneur running our country. We have a man that knows how much jets are supposed to cost that tells Boeing, we're not paying you $4 billion for Air Force One. Give me a realistic bid. I fly around in jets all the time. There's no way in the world that it could ever be worth $4 billion. We've got someone that's saying, look, if able-bodied people want government assistance, that's all well and good. Let's get something out of it back. Let's not just give them the money. Let's not just take the efforts of people willing to work hard and force them, because of their own self-esteem and willingness to work, to take care of people who are able-bodied and just unwilling to work, and all they want to do is game the system. We've got an administration for the first time since the founding fathers, because, when this country was founded, it was founded by business people. And then over time, we've seen more and more of just politics as usual, where people's whole career were politics, in due respect, including our previous president, who never ever had to run a business, never had to make sure there was a profitable bottom line. And now we've got entrepreneurs more excited. There's this thing that's called velocity. And if I could take a moment to explain it, it's the reason the economy was doing bad for all those years and why it's doing great now. Let's imagine it's nighttime. It's 9 o'clock at night. And I'm working at the Palace in Vegas. My family is at the beach house. I don't want to wake up my pilot. I was intended on staying at the Palace and working in Vegas, but it's late. So I decided I'm going to jump in my car and I'm going to drive home. 9 o'clock, I get in the car and I start driving. And as I start driving, I don't realize that it's EDC, Electric Daisy Carnival weekend in Vegas. And there are bumper-to-bumper people leaving Vegas, heading back to Southern California. What should have taken me 3.5 hours to get from my door to my other door, I'm on the road 4 hours, and I still got another 2 hours ahead of me. So it's 1 a.m, and I got to either get coffee or find a place to sleep. And there's this little flea bite town halfway between Barstow and San Diego. I've never stopped there. I've seen the side of the freeway that there is a motel, there is a bar, there is a restaurant, and there is a gas station. That's all that's there. And so I pull off to the motel, and I go to the front desk, and I say, how much to stay in your motel? I notice there's nobody here. How much to stay in your motel? He says, it's $100 a night. And I look around, and I'm going, oh, my God, $100 a night? He says, we're the only game in town. And I'm thinking he sounds remarkably like Jack Nicholson in The Shining. I'm a little bit concerned. And so I say, hey, tell you what, I'm going to take my $100, and I'll put it on the counter. Let me go look at the room. If it's okay, I'll stay there. If it's not okay, I'll come back. I'll get my $100. I'll buy a cup of coffee. I'll be on my way. He says, sure, fine. I no sooner get out of eye shot. He grabs my $100. He runs across the street to the bar. And he says to the bartender, owner of the bar, he says, hey, Mac, this is for my tab. This should take care of it in full. Mac takes the money, says, thanks. He says, hey, Jim, this is for the food that we bought at the grocery store. This should take care of my tab in full. Jim's drinking buddy, Jim turns to his drinking buddy and says, hey, Otto, this should take care of the repairs you did on my car. Otto takes the cash, winks at the girl at the end of the bar, says, you know what this is for. Gives her the $100. She runs across the street back to the motel that her husband owns, runs up to the counter, says, honey, here's to pay back the loan that I borrowed from you. We're paid in full. I decide I'm not going to stay. I walk out, I grab that $100, and I leave. Have all those debts been paid in full? Yeah, that's called economic velocity. If I had not pulled that $100 bill out of my pocket, it would have a velocity of 1, just me. But I put it on the counter. Now it's multiplied to 2. He takes it across the street, 3. He hands it to the grocery store, 4. They hand it to the automotive repair guy. That's 5. They hand it to the woman. That's 6. She takes it back to her husband. That's 7 transactions that happen. So the challenge of what happened during, again, the previous 8 to 10 years before 2017 was that velocity slowed down. People were afraid to spend money. Now, our government only generates revenue through 3 things: fees, fines, or taxes. If nobody's doing business, there's no transactions occurring that can be taxed, then the government has to figure out additional ways to generate revenue. And the only ways they can are fees and fines, which means more government oversight, more looking down the back of our necks, fining us, feeing us, which just stops business. We've got a president right now that understands in order for the entrepreneur to thrive, you've got to give them ways to make that happen. You've got to give the corporations, I don't care what anybody says, if the big guys get a tax break, everybody gets a tax break. That's how it works. They can hire more people. They can bring $350 billion with a B dollars back into this country from Ireland, which is what Apple did. And that money now creates velocity in our marketplace where Apple spends more money building more stores, developing more products, selling more in the marketplace, and everybody wins. So the key is cash flow. The key is velocity. And as entrepreneurs, we see that immediately. Nobody, Trevor, I shouldn't say that. Not many people knew the extent at which the economy was going to crash. There was a Shark Tank episode that this guy was pitching the sharks, and Mark Cuban asked the guy, have you ever had a successful business? He said, yeah, I launched the business in 2000. It was massively successful. For 9 years, we were making money hand over foot. Mark says, what happened? He said, the economy changed. I lost it all. Mark Cuban, this billionaire, said a lot of people lost it all during that time. And so I tell people, it's an adage, fall down 9, stand up 10. That's one of the things that we as entrepreneurs have is resiliency. We understand we're going to get knocked down. It's going to happen. We're going to invest. We're going to lose everything on a particular investment. Yet there's a reason that a venture capitalist will invest $10 million into 10 separate companies, knowing full well 9 of those companies are going to go belly up. He's going to lose $90 million. And the question is, why would they do that as a business model? Well, because the 10th business they put $10 million into makes them $1 billion. That's why. And so, what I'm doing right now, Trevor, is creating certainty for people, helping people, even when things aren't working the way that they want them to work, to say, okay, what do I need to adjust? Yes, I have to have sensory acuity. I have to have a willingness to let go of my ego long enough to say, well, I was certain that it would turn out this way. Things have changed. Maybe I should adjust, adapt. And rather than not look at the thing, put even more attention on the thing that I'm working on.
That's incredible. And that story about velocity is, I'm still contemplating that. That's so interesting. Like, I want to explore the implications of that. Absolutely stunning. So when you get up on stage and Tony Robbins is there, undoubtedly you have seen other people walk up before or after you that suffer from the fact that Tony Robbins spoke. And so they automatically, I assume at least, they automatically underplay because they are like, well, this guy's Tony Robbins. Is that true? Or by the time you're on the stage with Tony Robbins, you're pretty certain? Or have you seen people falter like this?
I've seen people falter. I sell from the platform. It's one of the things that I do is I teach people how to sell from the platform. And on any given stage, no matter who you put me on stage with, I'm either going to be the top salesperson or very close to the top. If not the top, then it was either a quirk or something. And I'm not bragging again. I'm a hypnotist. I have an unfair advantage. I know how to program people's minds to buy. I also have a moral and ethical obligation to sell what I'm selling because I believe in what I'm teaching and what I'm doing and what I'm selling. So yes, I have seen many people get on stages, and because there are other speakers that they believe are perceived in a higher level, not do well. When I go to somebody's conference, if I speak at a conference, I'm going to be the number one closer. There are people that do big conferences that they are the personality, meaning they are the personality. It's not just a brand, that don't like me at their conference, no matter how much money I'm going to make them, because of that belief that I'm going to make them look bad as a speaker. They'd rather take a little less money and not look bad as a speaker. There are people that are speaking at the conference that I'm speaking at. If it has multiple speakers that say, oh man, make sure I go on before Marshall. Marshall's going to take all the money out of the room. Yet I have seasoned pro friends that if they find out I'm on the roster, they beg the promoter, please let me go on after Marshall. And it's because they're smart enough to realize that I am a purse loosener. I put people in a buying state. The whole idea of velocity helps people realize you want to make money, you got to spend money. You got to be okay with the idea of planting seeds if you're a farmer. If you're a farmer and you have this silo filled with seeds and you say, oh, what if I plant all my seeds and they don't grow? I should just eat them. Well, yeah, that's all well and good. You'll be able to survive as long as you have seed in the silo, yet you won't be able to thrive, and you certainly won't be able to have multiple silos. And so, again, it all comes down to the programs of our brain. Who are you is the question you must ask yourself. And when you ask yourself that question, if it's anything less than what you want to be, then change it already. It is your choice to choose the words. It is your choice to choose the frame. I would rather be in self-deluded joy than in absolutely, identifiable gloom. It doesn't make any sense to me. I would rather believe when I go on a trip for multiple days that when I come back, my wife will have missed me. She will have longed for me, that she's not having an affair with the pool boy. And if she's having an affair with the pool boy, then my gosh, I better treat her so well that she never even considers that. And that even if she's having that affair, I don't want to know about it, all because in the long run, I know who I am.
I love that. So tactically, what can somebody do who is going to experience that moment where they recognize Tony Robbins just got up before them, and that's that? And let me tell you why. I just got back from 2 events, and similar to you, I have this belief that I just will dominate, and I do. Like they come up afterwards. You've changed my life, this and that, and all the others. And a buddy of mine walked up and he punched me in the shoulder afterwards, and he said, "I'm speaking next." And he was unhappy, that he was speaking out. So what does someone do in that instance where all of a sudden they recognize that? How do they break that mindset immediately? Not over a year, not over 10 years, not with speaking at 100 events, but in that moment of real stress.
We have 10 different levels of certainty, 10 different seminars that we teach that I've been teaching for 33 years. I also do what I call power days, usually for speakers. The lowest level ticket we have for what's called Turning Point is $1,000. The highest level ticket we have is level 10. It's Inner Circle Mastermind, taught at my palace, and that's $50,000. There is a $50,000 investment for me taking speakers and doing a number of things for them to increase their sales from the platform, to help them identify what is their back-end funnel and curriculum, so that they are able to, put a lifetime value on any of their customers anywhere between $8,000 and $12,000 per person. The first seminar, Turning Point, what it does is three things actually. Number one, it turns up the wantingness. A lot of the reason people don't succeed at a higher level is they don't know that they need to, or even that they can. And so when people come to my palace, and they walk into this 17,000 square foot house, and they look at me and they go, "What do you do for a living?" I say, "I'm a hypnotist." And they said, "Yeah, but what do you do for a living?" And, when my son, Sterling, was 3 years old, my son Maximus was 1, I was flying to Florida to do a gig, and my wife wanted to go up to Vermont to visit her family. And I said, "Would you like me to charter a jet for you?" She said, "No, we can fly commercially. I'm cool with that." And so I get her 2 first-class tickets. They're sitting on the plane in the front row. And as people are getting on the plane, my son Sterling is sitting on the aisle. He's welcoming everybody. "Hello, welcome. Glad you could join us. Thank you for being with us." And he's just greeting everybody. And most people are being very pleasant. Some of them, are kind of grouches. And after the second person was kind of grouchy, Sterling turned toward his mother and he said, "Mommy, are these our friends?" He had never been on a plane that wasn't a private jet, that every single person on that flight was invited personally and were our friends. Yeah. So ponder this for a moment, that you grow up in an environment where, number one, it's not only a wealthy environment where hard work is not expected, it's a fact. There has not been a day in my life since my kids had learned to talk that they haven't said, "Thank you, Daddy, for working so hard." There hasn't been a meal that I've provided for them that all of them, including my wife, haven't said, "Thank you, Daddy," or "Thank you, honey," for the meal. There hasn't been a meal my wife has made for them that I haven't told them, "Tell Mommy thank you for dinner." And so the thing about it is that the first thing somebody has to do to become more effective at what they do is be certain that there is a way to get there, turn up their wantingness. The second thing that Turning Point does is Turning Point then helps you to personally identify whatever programs are in your brain. Your friend that punched you in the shoulder because you did so well, because your sales were so strong, rather than punching you in the shoulder because you did so well, should be thanking the spirits, the gods, that room was filled with buyers that had money because you just proved it. The third thing that Turning Point does is Turning Point helps people to influence others, to speak language patterns that are so compelling that others want what they're selling, and furthermore believe they beg to buy what's being sold, and then they believe it was their idea. They don't believe that they were influenced. They just believe, "It's my idea. I came to this conclusion. Whatever you're selling, I'm buying."
That's fascinating. So my question, I guess, lies along these lines. Someone who is uncertain in the moment, like in that very instance when they need to perform.
What they need to ask themselves this question: I know I'm not certain right now. I can sense the doubt inside of me. I can feel the fear coming in. If I was certain, what would I do differently?
And then do that?
And then act as if that is true.
Interesting.
There's three things that we need to get anything we want in any area of our lives, whether it's being a better speaker or a better parent or a husband or anything. The first thing, and these are all, by the way, things taught at Turning Point. The first thing is we've got to create self-mastery. We've got to be able to control our thoughts and emotions at 100%. The second thing is we've got to learn the specific tools for the task at hand. There are technologies that most people don't even realize exist. As an example, if I'm on a platform and I'm saying, there are times in your life you know exactly what you need to do. You know where you're going, and even though it's a little frightening to get there, that you are moving now. And it seems like all I'm doing is having a casual conversation, but what I'm also doing is subtly pointing right at the desk where we take our orders. You know what you need to do. You know what actions are necessary for you to get everything that you want, and you're going to do that now. And there are technologies both in embedded commands and in direct links and in unrelated links, and in so many ways that people are influenced whether they realize it or not. And if you don't have it, then you won't realize you don't have it. Yet when you do have that ability and get the responses that we get, again, we close in any given room, we'll close 50, 70, 90% of the buying units. My average sales per person, this isn't per couple, per person, my average sales per person at our foundational events is $10,000 to $11,000 per person. Almost unheard of. And again, I don't say this to brag. I just, people will get off the stage and, there's no money in the room. I never hold that belief. If I get off a stage and there wasn't a lot of buyers, my whole thing is I look back at myself and say, okay, what can I do differently? What should I have done differently with this particular group? If they had money and I didn't get it, what didn't I do? What could I have done differently? And in that way, constantly get better at what I do rather than blame the outside world or that particular audience.
I like that. So kind of rolling towards the end of this, I got a few questions for you specifically about me. Now, one of my traits, let me back up and say this. When I graduated from high school, I had a buddy, he said, you'll either be a beach bum or a millionaire. And I said, I'm going to be both. I have very two distinct, edges of my sword. One is anonymity. I want to go sit on a beach and have know that nothing depends on me. Nothing will fall apart. Nothing, I'm not expecting any phone calls, etc. I find that getting smaller and smaller the older I get, but nonetheless, it still is a part of my identity, who I am, my being even. It's not a personality quirk. I enjoy that. The other one, and frankly, as I talk with you, it sounds silly for me to use these words, but I'm just going to tell you because it is what it is. Sometimes I am ashamed of this fact, but I seek significance. It drives me. I want to either walk through the airport and be completely unrecognized or stopped a dozen times and have people take photos with me. One of those two things is my drive for significance. For years, I thought it was something, we have to be humble, we have to do this. And I found that I was kicking against the pricks of my very being. And I said, okay, you know what? It is what it is. I can continue to waste all this time trying to change it, or I can use it to fuel my fire. And it fuels my fire now. So one, is there anything, first off, that we should be ashamed of if they push us towards a noble cause? Like the significance I derive is not from, being in some ridiculous Hollywood film that does nothing. It comes from actually bringing about change and promoting entrepreneurship and all these things. So is that bad? And number two, I guess number one is, what are your feelings? Is that good or bad? Is it?
Yes.
And number two, do you have something like that you're almost like, I don't want to tell the general public, because most people will translate that poorly. Most people that hear that, they're like, hey, Trevor's driven by significance. They're like, yeah, of course. What a jerk.
Yeah, for me, I don't really care about what other people's opinion of me is. It doesn't mean anything to me. And I think one of the smartest things that we can do is stop needing the approval of others. If I'm walking through an airport and people are stopping me because they recognize me because of my brand, that's a good thing. And so once again, though, like I said, I love being on stage in front of 20,000 people. I don't want to be in the audience with 20,000 people. It's got nothing to do with vanity or ego. It's just not fun for me. To want to create a business that you are not required to be there 24/7, that's smart. That's a potential billion-dollar brand. Whereas some people have brands that if they don't show up, they don't make any money. So my reinvention, when I came out of retirement, one of the first things I said to my wife is, I do not want to do what I was doing before I retired, and that is flying away from you and the kids and, working for 3 or 4 days or 5 days at a time. I want to be near you. So whatever I set up, I'm going to set up so that it is a business. It is scalable and saleable, that we can take a cookie cutter, much like McDonald's. We can take a bun, a burger, a dash of ketchup, a single pickle, and we know that anybody could do that. It's got to be that way. So as certainty is growing, we're creating certainty centers that are both entertainment and education centers, that once we have people trained in what I do, all they've got to do is follow a script that's been honed over the last 3 decades. The second thing, again, I want to be anonymous on the beach, yet I want to be noticed in the airport. They're not mutually exclusive, although I can see where you may get confused as to the fact, can they really work together? No, you described a business that didn't need you. That doesn't mean you're not going to be noticed on the beach, because if you're noticed in the airport, somebody's going to see you on the beach and want to talk to you. So for me, I like both. I like a business that I don't have to be a part of. I like creating a product in 1994 that I took a month to create, made me $120 million in the first year, and 24 years later is still making me millions of dollars every single year. I like the idea of people noticing me. I also like the idea of being able to have space where I can go to where I can just chillax.
I love that. So I want to go ethereal for a sec. I think this is a great question. I ask myself this often to kind of gauge my own inter-mechanical system of desires. So of what you have desired in your life, how much of it was truly your desire, and how much did you think you were supposed to desire?
Again, I traded in my SL 500, my convertible Mercedes-Benz. I traded it in for a swagger wagon. You would call it a minivan. It's a swagger wagon. And, we ran out of garage space, and I liked having multiple vehicles. I also know, though, that when I started driving my kids around in the swagger wagon, I have the same pride of that vehicle that I have in my Rolls Royce. I don't feel any different. Does the Rolls Royce drive better than the Lincoln Town, the Chrysler Town and Country? Of course it does. It's a Rolls Royce. For me, though, the significance is I'm in a vehicle that the family's safe. It allows us to move around, and what's in the back seat is more valuable than any car I've ever driven or private jet I've ever flown in. And so what happens is, your meanings change. Like I said, I came out of retirement, and it had to be something that really interested me, something that got my juices flowing again. And when I decided to come out of retirement, one of the things I said to my wife is, I want to hand you $1 billion check on my 60th birthday. Whether we're cashing out or whether it's the equivalent of we have that much value in the business and I'm retired so I can spend the rest of my days playing with you guys, that is an outcome. That is my target. That is where I'm going right now. And every choice I make is based on that idea. Is this something that you could sustain, or is it something that will always require your time and energy? And so once again, it comes back to that idea of who am I? Who was I on the day that I was born? I want my daughter Prosperity Silver, or my son Sterling Silver, or my son Maximus Silver, that when they are out in the world and they say, hi, I'm so-and-so Silver, I want them to say, if somebody says, oh, do you know Marshall Silver? I want them to beam and say, yes, that's my father.
I love that. So two more questions here. Awe, A-W-E, awe is like something I value in my life far above anything material. It brings me joy. It brings me tranquility. Above all things, I value peace of mind and tranquility. Those are like, I can't put a price on those two states of being. And awe allows me to almost magnify how I view the world, how I view myself. I try to give my children moments of awe because it requires almost your mind to have this upgrade to process the download of information that is causing awe inside of you. What brings you awe? What made you recently sit back and just be, whoa?
Yeah, I think that it's semantics. Words have no meaning. People have meaning. What you call awe is likely what I call gratitude. When I wake up in the morning and I see that sunrise, it awes me. Yet I'm grateful that I woke up, and I'm grateful that I live in a place that I can see that. Like I said, some people wake up and they think, why do I have to wake up before sunrise? I hate my life. I look at my kids and they're all funny. We have an expression. My daughter, we were having lunch the other day and she said, I remember when I was in mommy's belly, and she's 3 years old. She just turned 3. And I said, really? She said, yeah, my brothers were talking to me. I said, what were they saying? And she said, they were saying, hurry up, we can't wait to meet you. Well, they said that a lot when my wife was pregnant with her. And so I started laughing. And she said, I'm funny. I said, really? And what does funny mean? She says, funny means money. Because that's what we've trained them to know, is that funny does mean money. And so I'm laughing again. She said, Daddy, I have a secret I want to whisper to you. I said, okay, lean down. She whispered in my ear, an attitude of gratitude. Again, imagine growing up in a place where all those things you didn't have to learn. It just was what is.
Amazing. Yeah.
And so, sometimes people will take a look at that and go, wow, you got really great kids. And again, we're seeing it these days. And my heart breaks that kids, parents, a lot of times don't have the luxury of being able to be the main impressions upon their children, because they've got to send them to school and then they've got to be with the sitter and any number of things. And I'm just grateful, very grateful. I am in awe as to how amazing my babies are, how awesome they are. And then the other thing that I am very grateful for is, before I get on stage, I do 3 things. Number 1, I visualize the entire event from the moment my foot hits the stage till the very end when I'm done taking pictures and signing autographs, and the table rush with everybody buying for me. I visualize the whole thing. And then I say a little prayer, and the prayer is always one of gratitude. God, thank you for allowing me to do what I do for a living. Praise you for my beautiful bride and my amazing children. Thank you so much for the people in this room. Let the words that I speak be yours, not mine. And then when I get done, I trigger. I use what's called a mind trigger. In hypnosis, they call it a post-hypnotic. In NLP, they call it an anchor. And what I do is I just clench my hand into a fist, and I say the single word, power, because I've been doing that for over 33 years, and it works. And so when we come from that place of gratitude, when we come from that place of appreciating everything that we have, the rich do indeed get richer because they notice what they have. They're grateful for what they have. And if you treat your moped like a Rolls Royce, you won't treat your Rolls Royce like a moped and lose it.
I love that. Marshall, thank you so much for the time, for the wisdom, for the transparency. How can people find you online and how can they engage with you?
We are about to launch Certainty Incorporated. We are in soft launch right now. We have had amazing results for affiliates and people that like doing personal and business development.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, man. And audience, thank you for listening. We will see you again tomorrow on iTunes. Until then, enjoy.